Hello everyone, welcome back to Axe on Health. Today we're going to talk about something, well, it's kind of piggyback off of the last video I did talking about fat loss. But today I'm going to specifically talk about why people can't keep the weight off. And I wrote 5 points down and we're going to cover all of them. So one of the first questions I ask people is, do we have a weight loss problem or do we have a keep the weight off problem? Until I ask some people that, they say to me, wow, I never really thought about it like that. When the answer is, we don't have a problem with losing weight. We have a problem with keeping the weight off. And that is a multifactorial problem that can be very complex depending on the individual. And there's a lot of things that can go into it. So we're going to cover a couple of things. So again, people lose weight all the time in all sorts of different manners. Most people, statistically speaking, no matter where you look, it's between 80 to 95% of the people gain all the weight back in X amount of time, whether losing usually 15 to 30 pounds, and they gain more weight back, maybe 5 pounds extra. And I'm going to explain why that is. So, number one, we diet way too fast. And I'm going to talk about maybe why psychologically and stuff like that. When you're in the supermarket, or when you're on YouTube or social media, you see all these edited photos and all these people that don't understand nutrition. And we're talking about everyone, people that are nutritionists, people that are RDs, people that are celebrities. This isn't to be mean, it's just the flat out facts that most people don't fully understand the whole entire mechanism of fat loss. And you could talk about the complexity and the biochemistry, but none of that really matters. What matters is the practical application of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, leading over week to week and month to month to sustain fat loss. Are you doing it at the correct pace and so forth? So people diet entirely too fast. Couple reasons. Psychologically, like I said, looking on the magazines when you're in the supermarket and you see People magazine, you're like, oh, I lost, they're always like holding their waist thing. I lost X amount of weight in this much time and blah, blah, blah. And all this absolute ridiculously nonsensical information from, say, Dr. Oz or something like that. And this isn't to say anything bad about Dr. Oz, but the stuff that's portrayed in the media really shows that he doesn't know anything about weight loss, especially when it comes to sustainability. That's just one example. So, sustainability, like I said, people do stuff way too fast, okay? And this is actually number 3, is no adherence to sustainability. So research has shown that when you cut out certain things, especially entire macronutrient groups, so like ketogenic, and they cut out all carbs, most people cannot sustain that in the long run. And that's not a bad thing. There's only certain people that I've ever met that can sustain ketogenic diets or carnivore diets or anything like that long term. This is why we preach, and research shows that a more flexible approach to eating when you're going through a dieting phase, whether you want to call it if it fits your macros or flexible dieting, you're still getting the majority of your food from whole foods. You're still hitting your micronutrients, your vitamins, your minerals, and everything like that. While maybe allocating 10% of your daily calories a day to like some 3 cookies or something like that, or some barbecue sauce, however you may see fit, in order to sustain fat loss. And remember, as I have to say this a lot, fat loss and health aren't always the same exact thing, because people lose weight really, really fast in a very unhealthy manner. So someone that's really shredded doesn't mean they're the healthiest people or have the best biomarkers. So they can't adhere and there's no sustainability. And that's a huge problem. So people say to me, well, ketogenic makes me lose fat. Not really. Your calorie deficit is the number one reason why you're losing weight. So if you eat out 6 times a week, okay, and you start cooking all your own food, I said this exact thing in my previous video, that even though you're cooking food at your house and even though you're doing ketogenic, if you're tracking things, 1 gram of fat is twice as calorie dense, has 9 calories versus a protein or a carb, and a gram of alcohol is 7 calories. So if you're going out multiple times a week and drinking alcohol and eating foods that are fried with lots of oil, hydrogenated oil, just a lot of oil and fat, it's not that it's inherently bad, it just has more calories in it. It's more calorie dense, there's more energy. So more than likely that's going to put you in a calorie surplus if you were having, say, a mediocre meal with, like, I don't know, 60% carbs, 20% fat, and 20% protein. That's just a complete random made up scenario. But that's that. The other reason why people cannot keep weight off is, so when you start dieting, this is a very good example. I just was explaining this to someone an hour ago. So let's say you start dieting at 180 pounds and your maintenance calories is 3,000 calories. You diet over, say, 2 months and you go on the 152. So you crash diet, okay? You lose 30 pounds in 2 months, okay? So whatever that is, you know, you lose basically 8 times 4. You lose basically 4 pounds a week, which is way outside the guidelines. Now, when you first start dieting within the first week, you probably will lose a little bit more weight than the other weeks just because of food volume, water retention, and stuff like that, and initiating a diet. Because usually when you initiate a diet, the first initial change is 3,500 calories over the whole week. You don't take away 3,500 calories, which is 500 calories a day every time you make a change. You would be eating zero calories in a matter of like 6 days. So, you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. But your BMR changes. And there's multiple reasons why that happens. So again, 3,000 calories is your maintenance calories. And as you go down to 152, your BMR changes for multiple reasons. But the easiest way to say it in a common layman sense is your BMR changes in order to adapt to your physiology. So it's almost like a protective mechanism. So as your diet, your BMR goes lower because it wants to conserve more calories because you're getting leaner and losing body fat. And we've seen time and time again, whether in the literature or professional bodybuilders or average Joes alike, once people get to that like 8% body fat level, it's not the healthiest thing for most people. There's not a lot of people that like to be set point below 10% body fat in single digits. And once you start getting into that 6% range, it is more than likely unhealthy to sustain that for a long period of time. So your BMR changes. So let's say you get to 152. What does everyone do? Remember, going back to everything we were saying before, they diet way too fast. They can't sustain what they're doing. They have no adherence. So they say, excuse my language, screw this. And they go all the way back up to eating what they were doing before. But guess what? In the beginning, your BMR was say 3,000, but now your BMR is say 2,400. So 600 calories times 7, 4,200 calories a week is now a calorie surplus. It's not maintenance anymore. That's the biggest problem that people mistake. The back end of a dieting phase, we call it reverse dieting or when you want to maintain whatever, is just as, if not more important, in my opinion, it's more important than the actual dieting phase yourself. Because more damage happens in that, and I'm talking physiologic damage, gaining weight, psychological damage. We have huge binge eating issues after bodybuilding shows or wrestling matches or anything like that. So when you actually take all the data, including the actual empirical data and the anecdotes, and you look at it from the perspective of where the most problems probably happen, it's at the back end of a diet, okay? I'm not saying there's no problems with crash dieting, because there's problems, psychological as well as not doing it in the manner that's recommended by basically every single researcher on earth or people that do this in a more research-based manner. So coming down to this, how do we sustain the fat loss? So if you really want optimal success in a fat loss or dieting phase, more than likely you're going to want to track your macronutrients. You don't have to go crazy. If you're not stepping on stage, you don't have to track every single thing. Obviously, the more severe your goal is, like if you're stepping on stage for Mr. Olympia, you need to take every single thing into account. If you're not doing that, you're getting shredded for the beach or something, you don't have to be as strict, but you still probably more than likely for optimal results want to plan what you're doing. So once you get to the place that you want to be, you have to realize cognitively that your BMR and your metabolism has changed. Your maintenance calories is not what it was when it first started. So more than likely, if you want to gain back maybe a recomposition phase, maybe slightly above maintenance calories and gain some muscle, whatever you want to do, you don't just want to add all these calories back. And that's another big problem too. We're so obsessed as a society on instant gratification that when we lose weight, we want to lose it right now. And the thing is, you might only need to change your calories 500 calories over a whole entire week and then stay like that for 3 to 4 weeks. I don't know what you're doing, if you're resistance training, if you're body recomping. There's so many factors that go into it. But just like randomly cutting calories out whenever you want and not tracking anything is a recipe for absolute disaster. When you look at the people that can sustain fat loss for long periods of time, we've seen it time and time again. They have a balanced approach. They usually take longer in their dieting phases, and they maintain better, and they recomp better. And this has lots of different implications into psychological problems, because when you binge and gain all that weight back, if you don't have the best unconditional self-acceptance, because most people do not, they have conditional, they say, well, I'm not worth anything now because I'm fat. You know, when being overweight or fat is one aspect of your whole entire existence. Just like your political party or anything like that, or what you like in music or religion or anything, it's one single aspect of a complex structure of the human personality. So, but when people gain all this weight back, especially in fitness, they put their whole entire self-worth on it, and then this is the other side of the problematic issues that can happen, especially when it comes to severe cases like body dysmorphia and so forth. So, to review, you know, we don't have a weight loss problem, we have a keeping the weight off problem, okay? We diet as a society way too fast. There's way too many people that aren't giving you the best advice. We want to look sexy, we want to look shredded, we want to do everything we can except for the long-term process that gives you the best results time and time again. No adherence, no sustainability. I'm cutting out all carbs. I'm cutting out all fat. Ridiculous. Again, we've seen not sustainable for long periods of time. Your BMR changes, your metabolism changes throughout the dieting phase. It's not back to where it was. Your metabolism is not stagnant. It goes up, it goes down. It's malleable. You can change your metabolism over a period of time. We've seen this in the literature, and we've seen this anecdotally time and time again. And again, how to sustain. Once you get to your goal weight, figuring out what you want to do. You want to gain some more lean body mass? Do you want to stay here for a while and so forth? Adding a bunch of calories back is more than likely not the best thing to do. You will probably gain a bunch of weight and not muscle. So that's subcutaneous fat, visceral fat, water, anything, okay? And then the psychological issues we talked about before. So the people that I would recommend following when it comes to sustained fat loss, or basically any researcher, Layne Norton's Fat Loss Forever is, in my opinion, the best fat loss book ever written, ever. He's a researcher, PhD in protein metabolism thesis, I believe. Matt Ogus, awesome guy in the fitness industry. My buddy Chris Barakat, he's a researcher. I'll write these names down below. My buddy Hunter Pauley, who's an RD. There's people that you can follow that really give practical advice, and we see it time and time again. And when you look at them, they sustain their fat loss for longer periods of time, and they never binge. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.